So the question is, would we use it again? And the answer is yes and no. Hey there and welcome to my channel. My name is Kelsey. I am a homeschooling mother to 4 children, and today I am giving you my final thoughts regarding Heart of Dakota. So if you are new around here, thank you so much for joining us. I have several videos where I talked about Heart of Dakota. I talked about just like a look inside of Heart of Dakota. I talked about some scheduling updates. I talked about their like expansion for older children, and I will kind of link all those down below in a playlist down in the description box. If you are curious, this was our first year using Heart of Dakota, and I just wanted to give a final rundown of everything because there were several changes. There were several things that I can honestly give a full review on now after using it this year. So I have an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they both just turned those ages this past year. And so they were 10 and 6 when we started, and this level of Heart of Dakota is specifically geared for 2nd or 3rd graders. So I knew that it was below my oldest child a little bit, and it was above my younger son. But I wanted to use as much as I can to do family style home education, and so I was really curious about Heart of Dakota. I've seen a lot of really good things. We lean more eclectic, Charlotte Mason-y, so a lot of the things that they use were things I was interested in trying out anyways, and I was able to get a really good price on this. Now I want to talk to you about some of the changes that we went through, the overall final changes. I'm not going to go through all the books that we used, all the books that we didn't use, because that would just take a lot of time. But the short of it is that there were a few subjects that we just completely did not get to. So I actually had our 4th child in November, and we took all of December off. So we took off like half of November and all of December. And so we were kind of doing bare bones homeschool the second half of the year, and I knew all of this going into the new school year. So I knew that we probably would not be able to get to everything. Now Heart of Dakota includes your history, your Bible, your science, enrichments like geography and poetry, hymns, all of that good stuff. And so I just have to say, unfortunately, we did not get to the riches this year. We did not get to, we started out the year doing things like the hymn study, and we actually never got to the poetry. But we did. They have poetry, which we did not get to. They have various things like art projects and geography and different things like that that we also maybe did here and there or a few times, but we did not stick to as is written in the curriculum. The other thing that we changed is they follow a very Charlotte Mason approach, which is a little bit every single day or a little bit on a rotation, and we prefer, we do things like independent studies like math and reading every single day, but other things like science, social studies, spelling, things like that we do on a rotation basis. And for us, we like to do social studies on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So we moved the history lessons to Mondays and Wednesdays, and we kind of put the readings together. This just works best for my children. They are not great with transitions. I have some neurodiversity in our household, and transitions can be very difficult for my children. And so it's easier if they can focus on one subject for a set amount of time. It doesn't have to be like an hour and a half or anything like that, but just doing like 5 minutes of a history reading and then going to 10 minutes of science, and it just wasn't working. So we spend about 20-30 minutes on history and things like that, and that works out so much better for them. So then we would do their geography on Fridays. We have been using the Crafty Classrooms states sheets, and my son uses a couple of books for state study, and he does that every Friday. And so we worked on that last year, and then we wrapped that up this year. So instead of doing the geography that was in Heart of Dakota that correlated more of with what we were reading, since we were going through American history, I wasn't super concerned that he wasn't learning specific geographic things like that, because I knew he was doing a state study, and so I wasn't as worried about that. And so he continued that and finished that up this year. So we basically also decided to use a lot of our own history materials. We did not love the history materials that were included in Heart of Dakota. So for instance, they have you using this as one of your main spines for history during the year, and my kids did not like this book at all. They thought it was very, very dry. Honestly, I didn't even really like reading this book to them. This is another book that you incorporate, and they actually really enjoyed this one, probably because it has pictures and it's only like 1 page of text and things like that. So some of the history materials we did use, but most of them we did not. We also, we kind of winged it for history for a majority of the year. We incorporated some of our Simple Studies America, which I have a video for that right up here as well. And we would do our own notebooking pages. We would incorporate different videos. We have tons of games that we would incorporate, things like that. We took a field trip to Gettysburg, and we just did a lot of different things to really make history fun for the kids and fun for me. I really love history, and I was bored with some of the history that was included in this. So me and my kids really like doing projects. We like getting our hands on things. We like going places and doing things and visually seeing history come to life. And so I'm glad that we kind of went rogue. And I don't think that that's something that I would have been able to do as a new homeschooler, but now that I've been doing this homeschool thing for, you know, a handful plus years, I felt very confident doing that, and it worked out really, really nicely for us. So for science, it's kind of the same thing. You're doing science 5 days a week. Dying, hold on. So for science, you're doing that 5 days a week, and you are doing things like reading on one day, reading and notebooking, reading and doing a science experiment, reading and doing an exploration day, and then just reading a different day, I think. And so kind of with history, we would combine readings a couple of days, and then we would choose to do either the exploration or the experiment. My kids love experiments, and so it was nice that they were able to do very simple experiments that did not take a lot of prep time, did not take a lot of materials, did not take a lot of time to actually conduct the experiment, maybe 15 minutes for most of them. And they were able to do that once a week. We usually did that on Thursdays, and Tuesdays we would do our notebooking pages, and then we would just kind of split the science readings. The other thing that Heart of Dakota has you doing is they have you, so for instance, you may be reading a couple pages out of your history reader, a couple pages out of your science reader, and then doing a read aloud. And that was just a lot of reading. And a lot of the times we were combining readings, so I really didn't want to spend the majority of our homeschool day with just me reading. And so long story short, there were certain read alouds that correlated with what period of history we were in. So sometimes I would even swap out history books. So for instance, there was a time where we were learning about Abigail Adams in Simple Studies, and so Simple Studies just has you read a few pages out of the America book, and then I would literally get down here. I'll put a picture of it right here. We read several of those books this year, and my kids really loved them. I really loved them. Those are probably our favorite ones. But we would do that instead of incorporating a lot of history picture books and things like that. We would just read the Abigail Adams, and it talk about the Revolutionary War and George Washington, and it had a lot of that stuff in there. So I didn't feel like we needed to pull a ton of extra resources, and I didn't feel like we needed to do a separate read aloud every single day. So let's get into what did I love, what did I like, and what did we dislike. So we absolutely 100% loved the Bible aspect of Heart of Dakota. The questions that they would have you doing every day were so simple, so to the point, yet so thorough, deep in theology, really makes children think. I loved the character traits that you would kind of study it, talk about it, how can we apply it, practical, like, okay, what are you going to do to apply that this week? Did you apply that this week? So accountability. I just absolutely loved that. And I also liked how it correlated certain people in history that you were learning about. Now, we weren't always following the history, but when we were, it was really nice to say, okay, well, this person, were they following Christ? Were they not? If they were said to be a Christian, were they bearing fruit? Really thoughtful questions that I super appreciated. The other thing was the devotional, the little pillows. I have the one that is little pillows and morning bells. So there would be times where we weren't really following the Heart of Dakota guide a whole lot. I would just pull out some of the morning bells, which I think they use in a different Heart of Dakota unit for a different grade, but we absolutely love those. They were like a front and back page. It incorporated scripture. It was deep in theology. I cannot tell you how many children's devotionals, even adult devotionals, I see now in modern Christianity that are just so shallow and do not ask thoughtful questions, do not you know, portray Christ as is biblical. And so taking, you know, I don't know when this book was written. It appears to be late 1800s, early 1900s by the speech, but I definitely think that it is one I am going to hold on to. I think we will read it again and again and again, and absolutely my favorite part of this curriculum. The thing that we liked about Heart of Dakota was the science. We did not use every single science resource. We didn't finish every single science resource that we started. We got off kind of on a rough foot with One Small Square. We didn't really like the seashore one, but then we really liked the woods ones. We liked Pioneer Sampler, but we didn't love it. We loved the Thomas Edison stuff. I actually incorporated a little bit of Beyond 5 in a Row, which I would be happy to do a video about 5 in a Row, because I had purchased some of the books. There's Before 5 in a Row, 5 in a Row, and Beyond 5 in a Row, and I have all 3. So if you guys would like a video, I plan on doing that in June, so make sure that you are subscribed. That also uses the same Thomas Edison book, and so I pulled a few ideas from Heart of Dakota, a few from Beyond 5 in a Row, and we really, really loved that. Even though I had planned on skipping Thomas Edison because we learned about him last year, I'm so glad I didn't. There was so much more that we learned aside from just Thomas Edison, that time period, other things in science, periodic table, all of that kind of stuff that we would not have done had we not done this unit. So I really loved that. But there were certain resources that we either just liked or didn't love, or maybe we kind of skipped over. We never did finish the Wright brothers. My kids got sick and we kind of just like, we're done with the end of the year, and so we wrapped up, you know, our core subjects and just kind of were like, maybe we'll do the Wright brothers over the summer or maybe in a couple of years, but we did really enjoy the science. The thing that we disliked the most from Heart of Dakota was the thing that I thought that I would love, and that is the history. So the history, I would say, is really the core of Heart of Dakota. It's incorporated in the enrichment, you know, the riches, the poetry, all of that is incorporated into a lot of the science, not all the science, but a lot of the science is incorporated into the Bible studies. It's basically like the meat of Heart of Dakota, and I can tell you that if you are not a huge fan of the history, or if you are not in that period of history, it is still doable to use Heart of Dakota, though I don't know that I would invest in the cost, but I will get to that in just a second. But yeah, I just did not love the history. We used several of the readers that were, you know, the read alouds, like the living chapter books and things like that. But overall, in general, we were not fans of a lot of the history materials. We ended up supplementing a lot of our own materials, adding a lot of things, reducing a lot of their things. So I would definitely say that the history was the biggest miss when it came to Heart of Dakota. So the question is, would we use it again? And the answer is yes and no. I don't want to get rid of probably 90% of the materials that we had from Heart of Dakota. I don't think I want to get rid of the teacher's guide, but there are a couple of books that I definitely am going to resell that I probably will not ever use again, and I probably would not if we did use this guide again, I probably would do exactly what we did. I also forgot to mention that we did not end up using the like expansion set for my son, who's my oldest, who it can expand to a couple of older grades. I just didn't feel like we needed it, and it was just a lot of extra work on his plate. And so I've actually already given away and sold some of those materials, but a lot of the books that he was supposed to read, he did read at one point because they seemed very interesting to him. So overall, Heart of Dakota, I would definitely say is great. If you love their history and you know, you like their science and all of that stuff, then this would be a really great fit. But for me personally, I don't think I'm going to have Heart of Dakota be our main curriculum again. I've even told my husband that if I can get a different level of Heart of Dakota on a really good price, I would probably buy it just for the science and Bible alone. Okay guys, so that is it with my final impressions, final thoughts on Heart of Dakota. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please give it a big thumbs up, help that YouTube algorithm. Hopefully when this video comes out, I will have hit 1,000 subscribers. If not, that is okay too. I'm so glad for the 999 of you that are here with me, and those of you who may not be subscribed yet. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!